Hey guys, my name is Divya. I am a doctor. I have been in a management role with a healthcare company for a while. I recently took the SHRM exam. I've been doing a series of videos right here on my channel to help everybody get SHRM certified. I really hope that these videos are helping you. If they are, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. It really means a lot to me and it helps me be motivated and keep doing more and more videos. Okay guys, so the topic for today's discussion is how to make time to study for the SHRM exam. So I think all of us know that SHRM is an exam that deserves your attention, it deserves your time, and that is a precious commodity these days. Time is something that's hard to find, it's hard to come by. So I wanted to talk a little bit about how I actually made time for this exam, made time to study for this exam, which ultimately leads to achievement of the goal. And the goal is to get SHRM certified. Okay guys, so let's realize a few things before we start talking about how to find time to study for this exam. Let's realize that we're not in school anymore and we're not in college anymore. Most likely, if you're studying for a professional management certification, then you have been out of school and college for a while, and that's why you're taking this certification. So that means we are not full-time students anymore. And even though we want to study, we still want to be students all our lives, let's realize that we have a whole bunch of other things going on. Most of us have a full-time job. I have a full-time job, and that takes away 8 to 10 hours every single day, especially if we include the commute time. Commute times are usually not easy. You're not sitting on a very comfortable train or a bus where you can sit and study and take out your notes. At least that's what I realize. I'm in Bangalore and commute time is not one of those comfortable times where you can study. So I do think working takes about 10 hours of my day if I include my commute time. Over and above that, a lot of us have families, responsibilities, and kids running around. And even though all of this makes life absolutely worth it, please know that all these also take time. So, coming back to the good old question, how do we make time to study for this exam? So let me start with my story. How did I make time for this exam? So let me start by narrating what actually did not work for me, and hopefully that will be the segue into what worked for me. So I had this grand plan that I will wake up early and study for this exam. So it made a whole lot of sense to me because I am a morning person and I usually get up early every single day, regardless of the day. So I usually start my daily chores around 5:15 in the morning, because if it's a weekday and if I have to go to work, this was all before the pandemic, if I have to leave for work, I usually left by about 6:30 or 6:40 in the morning because I have a good 1 hour commute in Bangalore, and I wanted to be at my desk by 7:30 or 7:40, because lo and behold, if you're not, then you're stuck in the famous Bangalore traffic, which could take 2 to 3 hours. So this was my grand plan. I said, okay, I'm anyway getting up by around 5:30, so I could always get up around 4:15, give it a good hour and a quarter of studying, and move on from there. So how did that pan out? Well, I would end up not getting up on many days because I was very tired, or I would get up, I would make myself a cup of tea, my famous cup of tea that really gets me energized and makes me want to study. But then it was so early in the morning that a lot of times I would just spend time thinking about philosophical things. So it was not productive time and it didn't lead to what I wanted to. So I realized that pretty early, within a week, that this was not going to work out and it was not for me. So I started plan number 2. I thought that I'm going to put in an hour and a half of studying every single night after my son has gone to sleep. So this sounded brilliant, right? I mean, the kids are in bed, everything is quiet, and I should be able to study. So I used to make my son sleep, and then a lot of times I would fall asleep with him because I was tired, it was late at night, and the reality is that I'm really not a night person. The other thing about my job is that evenings and nights are the craziest for me. So that's when I get most fatigued because I have a lot of meetings and a lot of discussions and presentations going on. So it didn't work out for me. So ultimately, this is what I figured. I figured that, I reach office early on and that around lunchtime is when I should schedule my studying. So I would take a very short 10 to 15 minute lunch break and actually eat or even gobble down my food. And then I would sit down to study for about 45 minutes. And it's not a lot, it's only 45 minutes. I mean, I couldn't do more than that at office. And I knew that, but even then it was totally worth it. So this was really it. I used to study about 45 minutes in the beginning every single day. And that's how I found a little chunk of time. Not a big one, but a very little one. And that kept me going. After this, the pandemic hit us and my commute time fortunately reduced. So I do have a famous 1.5 hour to 2 hour commute one way. And after that reduced, I also shifted my working hours instead of the morning to the afternoon. So I started working from 1 in the afternoon till about 10, 11 at night. So I'd be logged on during these hours, finish all my work, answer my emails, my meetings, my presentations, all the tasks to be done were between 1 and 11. So what I ended up doing is studying right before my 1 p.m. shift. So this pandemic was sort of a blessing in disguise for me, and I know I shouldn't be saying that because a lot of people have been hit so hard, but the fact that I didn't have to commute, I could study in the morning. So I studied from 10:30 in the morning to about noon. So it was 10:30 to 12, about an hour and a half. I would eat my lunch and then I would sit down to actually work from 1 to 11. And I know that working my schedule and working around it was the key for me. And I also know that everyone may not be as lucky. So here is my sincere request to all of you. Please analyze your own schedule. I told you my own story. I've told you what I did to find that hour and a half that worked for me. And I know I can't study more than that on a day that I'm working. But you have to sort of analyze your own schedule and hit your own failures. Please know that the mornings and evenings didn't work for me, and that's how I started. You're going to stumble upon a few obstacles before you hit your niche, your little zone where you can actually get things done. And I know it's a lot because asking for an hour and a half these days really feels like, where do I get the time from? Because there is no time. So I think that we need to look for it in our own lives, and it's going to help. So now that I've told you my entire story about how I looked for time in my own schedule, I hope that you can look for time in your own schedule. And once you look for this time and once you have it down, please know that there are a few tips that you should follow so that you actually utilize this time. So tip number 1, study in small chunks. So an hour and a half or a 45 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes might seem a very small chunk to you, but these are the things that add up. Study a little bit every day, and believe me, it's going to do wonders. Okay, so tip number 2, sneak in some time in the evening instead of watching TV. So this is a little bit of a difficult thing to do, but if you could sneak in half an hour of studying in the evening rather than watching TV, it's going to really, really help you. So you could have your hour during lunch or 45 minutes during lunch and just a half an hour in the evening. So this is the time when I didn't do something too strenuous, like I would not be answering quiz questions or exam questions, but I would be reviewing my notes and trying to actively recall some of the material. So it just meant that you'd either reviewed something or studied a little bit of a topic. So remember, little things add up. Tip number 3. This was the toughest thing for me to do, but I think it really works. So tip number 3, put your phone away while studying. I know we all want to look at notifications and be up to date and also be there in case there's an emergency. But guys, put your phone away while studying. So I always had this fear that what if something happened to my son while I'm studying? But then I kept it far away so that it wasn't reachable and wasn't at arm's length. The reason for that is if there's an emergency, someone will call me, right? And I can hear the phone ring. So I can't pick it up on my own to see text messages, but hey, if it rings, then I should pick it up. And that's what I decided on. Okay, so tip number 4, studying time is studying time. This is not the time to be running errands, to cook for your family, to answer emails, or to pay your phone bill. This is the time to actually sit down and study. And I know that this is the time that you're going to remember a ton of things that you have to do, but then just put them down on a different list while you're studying. You can look at that list later, but please don't get distracted and start doing and running all those errands. It's really not worth it. Tip number 5, study on your holidays, but don't study the entire weekend. So let's just say you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday off because Friday was a holiday on the holiday list of your company or your organization. Study the Friday. I think it's good to put in an hour and a half on a Friday, maybe even the Saturday, but then take Saturday evening and all of Sunday off. You are going to get fatigued while studying because the brain's working overtime, but it's still going to be worth it. It's still going to be worth it to study and take the Saturday evening and Sunday off. Tip number 6, caffeine helps a lot of people. For me, ginger tea is the go-to beverage. This may not be the thing for you. It may be the thing for you. I don't know what it is, but I do like the combination of tea and water at all times when I'm studying, and it really keeps me going. Again, find your little niche and find what works for you and sit down while studying. Tip number 7, keep all your books and notes right with you while you're studying. This is really going to help you so that you don't have to keep getting up for a little piece of paper, for pen, for a sticky note, or something that you don't have on you. It's going to help you motivated and keep going for that hour and a half or a small chunk of session, whatever time you've decided. Tip number 8, take bathroom breaks. This is going to sound so obvious, but guys, even if it's a small chunk of time that you've set aside, you're going to need a break to go to the bathroom or the restroom, and just do it. If you're going to delay it, it's not going to help you focus, and just ensuring that you've relieved yourself is going to help you focus. Tip number 9, and probably my most important tip, be in the present. This is going to sound so philosophical, but every time any of us are studying, well, let me just speak of myself. Every time I'm studying, I look at the syllabi and I always feel that I'm not going to get through it. I feel like I'm going to run out of time and I feel like it's not going to happen. Don't let that happen to you. Small chunks, small topics make a huge difference. And when we start worrying about not being able to go to the finish line, not only do we waste time for the current session, we also waste time in the next session because we're demotivated and depressed. Instead, just focus on the studying and get through whatever you possibly can. Even if it's half a page, hey, you actually did half a page. So focus on the present, live in the present, study in the present. Tip number 10, if you forget things after studying, please don't be demotivated. It can happen to anyone and everyone. It really happened to me a lot that I used to wonder what I studied the previous day or sometimes the previous week and start worrying and fretting about it. It doesn't help anybody, guys. Again, study in the present and don't keep worrying about what you've forgotten. The review sessions, the testing, the practice tests, the quizzes will help you reinforce, and nevertheless, there will be times you feel blank, but don't worry about it. Just keep going. Just keep running this marathon and you will hit the finish line as a winner. Tip number 11. Yes, I know that I only promised 10 tips, but here's my bonus tip, guys. If you're able to take a walk right after your studying session, it's going to help you remember. So this is something that really worked for me. If I was studying on a holiday or studying on a weekend and I read a topic and I was able to walk even for 5-10 minutes after the topic, I was able to recollect a lot of things, not just then, but later on also. I don't know what it is about walking and exercising, but they really help you study and remember things. So this was all I wanted to say in this video. I just wanted to share how I made time in my schedule and ensured that I had a little bit of a slot to study for this vast exam. And I also shared 10 tips on how to utilize that time. Make good use of the time, guys, and you'll be just fine. So I hope this video has helped you. Thank you so much for watching.